In the vastness of space, the Galactic Empire was known for its strength and power. They ruled with an iron fist, believing that no one could challenge them. Their ships were huge, armed with powerful weapons that could destroy entire planets. But in the shadows of this great empire, a small human ship was on the move. This ship was called the Valiant Star. The crew of the Valiant Star was not very large. There were just a dozen brave men and women, each with their own special skills. They worked together like a well-tuned machine, each person knowing their role. The captain, a young woman named Sarah, stood at the helm with determination in her eyes. She knew the risks, but she also believed in her crew and their mission. As they flew through the darkness, the crew received alarming news. A patrol from the Galactic Empire spotted them. The Empire's ships were mighty, and they were closing in fast. The crew felt a mix of fear and excitement. They were on a vital mission to gather information about the Empire's plans. But now they had to face a powerful enemy. On the Empire's side, in the Grand War Room, the leaders watched the screens with amusement. "Look at this tiny human ship," one commander sneered. "They think they can invade our space? Let's show them what real power looks like." The commanders ordered their fleet to prepare for battle, confident that they would crush this insignificant threat. The Empire's ships, dark and menacing, moved into position, ready to strike. Back on the Valiant Star, Sarah and her crew huddled around their control panel. "They don't know what we're capable of," Sarah said, trying to boost morale. "We've trained for this. We have a plan, and we can outsmart them." The crew nodded, feeling the fire of determination ignite in their hearts. They were not just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for all of humanity. As the Empire's fleet approached, the crew quickly checked their equipment. They had a secret weapon, a hidden energy core that could enhance their ship's firepower. This energy core was new and powerful, but it came with risks. If they used it, it could either save them or put them in danger. Sarah made the choice to keep it ready, but hidden for now. "We'll wait until the moment is right," she decided. The excitement in the air was thick. The crew knew that they had to act quickly. The Empire was overconfident and underestimated them. This was their chance to prove that humans could stand up to the might of the Empire. The crew worked together seamlessly, preparing for the battle ahead. "Everyone, remember our training," Sarah called out. "Stay calm, stick to the plan, and we'll make it through this." The crew focused on their tasks, checking the weapons and securing the ship. As they approached the Empire's fleet, they could see the massive ships in formation, ready to unleash destruction. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the Valiant Star. "They're firing!" one crew member shouted, panic rising in his voice. Sarah gripped the controls tightly. "Hold steady. Prepare for evasive maneuvers!" The ship lurched as Sarah guided it to the side, narrowly avoiding the first blast. The crew cheered as they successfully dodged the attack. The Empire's ships were now furious. They began to fire relentlessly, but the Valiant Star danced through the chaos. The crew's training paid off as they maneuvered the ship with skill and precision. Sarah felt the thrill of battle coursing through her veins. "We can do this!" she shouted. "Stay focused!" As the battle raged on, the crew realized they were not just fighting to survive, they were fighting to change the fate of humanity. They were small, but they had the heart of warriors. In that moment, they knew they would not go down without a fight. The Valiant Star was more than just a ship, it was a symbol of hope for all humans. With their eyes set on the looming fleet of the Empire, they prepared for the greatest challenge of their lives. This battle would show the galaxy what humans were capable of, and they were ready to prove that even the smallest ship could make a big impact. The battle had begun, and the Valiant Star was in the thick of it. As Sarah and her crew dodged enemy fire, the ship shook with every blast. The crew worked hard, focused and determined to survive. They were outnumbered by the Galactic Empire's massive fleet, but they had something the Empire did not know about, a hidden weapon that could change everything. "Captain, we need to find a way to turn the tide," shouted Mark, the ship's engineer. He was busy monitoring the ship's systems and adjusting the power levels. "We can't keep dodging these attacks forever." "I know, Mark. But we have our secret weapon," Sarah replied, her voice steady. "We just need to be patient." The energy core had been installed just before they left Earth. It was a new technology that could boost the ship's firepower, but it had never been tested in battle. Using it could give them an advantage, but if something went wrong, it could also destroy them. The crew needed to decide whether to take that risk. "Do we activate the energy core now?" asked Lisa, the weapons officer, looking at Sarah with wide eyes. If we do, we can fire back harder than ever. Not yet, Sarah said firmly. We have to wait for the right moment. If we use it too soon, we might not get another chance. Outside, the Empire's ships loomed large, their dark hulls glinting in the starlight. The crew of the Valiant Star could see the enemy vessels firing continuously. Each shot felt like a thunderclap, shaking their ship. The crew's hearts raced as they watched the powerful blasts narrowly miss them. "Sarah, we need to act fast!" "They are closing in," yelled Mark, his eyes darting between the control panel and the battle unfolding outside. "They won't let us escape for long." The pressure was mounting, but Sarah kept her cool. She knew that fear could spread like wildfire if they didn't stay focused. "We have to trust in our training and each other. Let's keep the ship moving," she ordered. "Everyone prepare for the next attack." As they evaded enemy fire, Sarah suddenly had a thought. "Mark, can we reroute some power to the shields?" she asked. "If we can hold them off a little longer, it might give us the time we need." "Good idea," Mark replied, his fingers flying over the controls. He quickly adjusted the power distribution, and the shields flared brighter. The crew felt a renewed sense of hope. They could withstand the blasts for a little longer. While they continued to maneuver through the chaos, Sarah's mind raced with plans. She thought about the energy core and how it could change everything. What if we used it to take out their flagship? She wondered aloud. "That's risky, Captain," Lisa cautioned. "If we miss, we could expose ourselves to their full firepower. But if we succeed, we might win the battle," Sarah countered. "We just need to be precise. I need everyone to stay sharp." "We can do this!" As they continued to dodge blasts, Sarah and her crew prepared for the most critical moment of their mission. They had to use the energy core wisely. If they could just get into position, they might turn the tide in their favor. Finally, Sarah spotted an opening in the enemy formation. "Now! Let's move!" she shouted. "Mark, charge the energy core! Charging now!" Mark replied, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. The ship hummed with energy as the core activated, filling the cockpit with a bright glow. "Prepare weapons," Lisa called out, her heart racing. She aimed their cannons at the nearest Empire ship, the flagship looming large in front of them. "Hold steady," Sarah instructed, her eyes locked on the target. "Wait for my signal." With the crew's eyes on the flagship, the tension in the air was electric. They were ready to unleash their secret weapon, but they had to time it just right. As the flagship's guns trained on the Valiant Star, Sarah felt her heart race. This was it, the moment they had all been waiting for. "Now, fire!" she commanded. Bright beams of energy erupted from the Valiant Star, striking the flagship with incredible force. The crew held their breath as they watched their shot connect. The energy core had done its job, and they felt the rush of victory surge through them. But as the enemy ship began to fall, the crew realized that this was just the beginning. They had awakened a sleeping giant, and the battle was far from over. As the bright energy beam struck the flagship of the Galactic Empire, chaos erupted. The powerful blast tore through the hull, sending sparks flying into the cold void of space. The flagship shuddered, and the crew of the Valiant Star watched with bated breath. Their secret weapon had worked. "Captain, we hit them!" shouted Lisa, her voice filled with excitement. "The flagship is taking damage." Sarah felt a surge of hope. "Keep firing! Let's take advantage of this moment." She watched as the crew sprang into action, ready to unleash more firepower on their enemies. However, the Empire was not easily defeated. The remaining ships quickly regrouped, and their commanders roared with anger. "Retaliate! Destroy that human ship!" one commander shouted, slamming his fist on the control panel. The Empire's ships turned their weapons toward the Valiant Star, and the air was thick with tension. "Everyone, brace for impact!" Sarah yelled, gripping the controls. The ship shook violently as enemy fire lit up the darkness around them. Mark worked furiously at the console, trying to keep the ship stable. "We can't take too many hits like this," he warned. Sarah felt the adrenaline pumping through her veins. "Increase power to the shields," she ordered. "And keep dodging. We need to stay alive." The crew moved in perfect sync, each person focused on their tasks. They were no longer just a small crew. They were warriors fighting for their survival. The battle raged on as the Valiant Star maneuvered through enemy fire. Sarah could see the massive ships of the Empire surrounding them, but they were ready. "Fire again!" she commanded, and the crew unleashed another wave of energy blasts. One shot struck an enemy cruiser, causing it to explode in a dazzling display of light. Direct hit! They're falling back, Lisa cheered, but Sarah knew they could not let their guard down. The Empire would not give up easily. Just then, Sarah spotted a new threat. A massive battleship, larger than any they had faced, was moving directly toward them. Its cannons glowed ominously as it prepared to fire. "Mark, can we outrun it?" she asked, panic rising in her chest. "We have to try," he replied, his fingers racing over the controls. The ship lurched as he pushed the engines to their limit. The Valiant Star shot forward, but the battleship was faster. A moment later, a barrage of energy blasts lit up the space around them. "Incoming!" Lisa yelled, her eyes wide with fear. Sarah gritted her teeth and steered the ship hard to the left, narrowly avoiding the deadly beams. The crew could feel the heat of the blasts as they whizzed past, but they were still in the fight. "Let's split their formation," Sarah shouted, her heart pounding. "We'll hit them from both sides." The crew nodded, their resolve steeling. They turned the ship sharply, dodging more blasts as they flanked the enemy fleet. "Now!" Sarah shouted. "Fire at will!" The crew unleashed everything they had. Energy beams erupted from the Valiant Star, striking the Empire ships with precision. The battle was fierce, and the crew felt the weight of each victory. Suddenly, the enemy flagship began to recover. It was still damaged, but its guns were firing again. "They're coming back," Lisa warned, her voice shaking. "We can't let them regroup. Mark, prepare the energy core again," Sarah commanded, knowing they needed a decisive blow. "This time we aim for that battleship." "Ready when you are, Captain," Mark replied, determination in his eyes. As the flagship unleashed a torrent of fire, the Valiant Star danced around the blasts. Sarah focused on the massive battleship, its dark silhouette looming ahead. "Now, fire the energy core," she yelled. With a brilliant flash, the beam shot forth, striking the battleship directly in its center. For a moment, time stood still. Then, the battleship erupted in a massive explosion, debris scattering in all directions. "Yes! We did it!" Lisa shouted, tears of joy in her eyes. The crew erupted into cheers, their spirits lifted. They were fighting not just for their lives, but for the future of humanity. But the battle was not over yet. As the smoke cleared, Sarah could see that the remaining Empire ships were regrouping. The fight was far from finished, and they would need every ounce of courage and skill to win. "Get ready, everyone!" Sarah shouted, her voice steady. "We're not done yet!" With their hearts racing and determination burning bright, the crew of the Valiant Star prepared for the next wave of the battle. They were ready to show the Galactic Empire that one small human ship could make a difference. The battle raged on, with the remnants of the Galactic Empire's fleet regrouping for one final stand. Sarah and her crew of the Valiant Star were exhausted, but their spirits were high after their recent victories. They had faced overwhelming odds and struck hard against their enemies, but they knew the hardest part was still to come. "Captain, the enemy is regrouping," Mark warned, his eyes glued to the console. "They're preparing for another attack." Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her crew's hopes on her shoulders. "Everyone stay focused," she said firmly. "We have to keep moving. We can't let them get a clear shot." As they maneuvered through the debris of fallen ships, Sarah noticed a change in the enemy's tactics. The remaining Galactic Empire ships were forming a tight formation, their cannons aimed directly at the Valiant Star. "They're trying to trap us!" Lisa yelled, her voice filled with urgency. "Mark, what's our best option?" Sarah asked, trying to remain calm. She knew they had to act fast. "If we can create a diversion, we might be able to slip through their lines," Mark replied, his mind racing with ideas. "We could use the remaining energy in the core to overload one of their ships." "Good thinking." "Let's do it," Sarah agreed. "Lisa, prepare the targeting system. We need to aim for the largest ship in their formation." As they worked together, the tension on the bridge grew. The crew knew that this plan was risky, but they also understood that it could be their best chance at survival. "Everyone, prepare for a hard turn," Sarah shouted. "We need to be quick." With everyone ready, Sarah skillfully maneuvered the ship. The Valiant Star turned sharply, its engines roaring with power. "Mark, charge the energy core!" she commanded. The ship hummed with energy as they readied their secret weapon for another strike. "Charging now!" Mark replied, his fingers dancing over the controls. He felt the adrenaline surge as the ship prepared to unleash its power once more. "Steady, steady," Sarah murmured, her eyes locked on the enemy ship. The enemy fleet was focused, their cannons aimed at the Valiant Star, unaware of the surprise attack coming their way. "Now!" Sarah yelled. "Fire!" Bright energy shot forth, striking the massive enemy ship in the center of its hull. The explosion was magnificent, sending shockwaves through the nearby ships. The enemy formation faltered and chaos erupted as they scrambled to regroup. "Great shot, Captain!" Lisa cheered, her face beaming with excitement. But Sarah knew they couldn't celebrate yet. They had to act quickly before the Empire regained its composure. "Mark, let's take advantage of this confusion," Sarah commanded. "We need to break through their lines." With the crew working in perfect harmony, the Valiant Star pushed forward. The remaining enemy ships were still reeling from the explosion, and Sarah knew this was their chance. "Keep firing! Let's break their formation," she ordered. The crew unleashed a flurry of energy blasts, striking the enemy ships with precision. Each hit weakened the enemy's defenses, and the crew felt a surge of hope with every explosion. But just as they thought they had the upper hand, a massive enemy cruiser began to turn toward them. Its cannons glowed ominously, and Sarah's heart sank. "It's targeting us!" she yelled. "Hold on," Mark shouted, pushing the engines to their limits. The Valiant Star veered to the left, dodging the incoming fire. The crew held their breath as blasts whizzed past them, narrowly missing their ship. "Keep it steady," Sarah urged, her voice calm despite the chaos. "We can't let them hit us." Just then, Lisa noticed something in the distance. "Captain, there's a gap in their formation," she pointed out. "If we can slip through, we might reach the flagship." "Then that's where we're headed," Sarah said with determination. "Mark, prepare for full throttle. We're going for it." As the crew prepared for the final push, Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline. This was their moment, the turning point in the battle. If they could reach the flagship, they could end this fight once and for all. With the engines roaring, the Valiant Star surged forward, weaving through enemy fire. The crew was focused and determined, each member doing their part to ensure success. The gap grew closer, and Sarah knew they had to make it. "Now! Full speed ahead!" she shouted, gripping the controls tightly. The Valiant Star shot through the opening, leaving the disoriented enemy fleet behind. As they sped toward the flagship, the crew cheered. They had made it through. But Sarah knew their victory was not yet certain. The flagship loomed ahead, and they were ready for the final battle. "Prepare for a direct attack," Sarah commanded. "This is it!" With fierce determination in her heart, she led her crew toward the flagship, ready to show the Galactic Empire that the Valiant Star was not to be underestimated. As the Valiant Star raced toward the massive flagship of the Galactic Empire, the crew's hearts pounded with adrenaline. Sarah gripped the controls tightly, her eyes locked on the enemy ship. This was their chance to end the battle and show the Empire the power of humanity. "Captain, we're entering their defense perimeter," Mark shouted, his fingers flying over the controls. "They'll have heavy fire aimed at us. Stay focused," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "We've come too far to back down now." The crew braced themselves as they neared the flagship. The ship's cannons lit up, and beams of energy shot through the darkness of space. "Incoming fire!" Lisa yelled, her eyes wide with fear. "Dodge left!" Sarah commanded. The ship swerved sharply, narrowly avoiding a blast that exploded just behind them. The crew felt the jolt as they maneuvered, but they were determined to press forward. "Keep firing at their weapons," Sarah ordered. "We need to disable them before they take us out." The crew worked together, targeting the flagship's cannons with their energy blasts. One by one, enemy weapons went silent, and the crew felt a surge of hope. "Good job, everyone. Keep it up," Sarah encouraged, her spirit lifting. But just as they thought they were making progress, the flagship's massive hull began to pivot. "They're preparing to ram us!" Lisa shouted, her voice trembling. "Mark, full reverse!" Sarah yelled. The ship backed away, but it was too late. The flagship collided with the Valiant Star, shaking the entire crew. Alarms blared, and the ship shuddered violently. "Status report!" Sarah demanded, her heart racing. Mark worked frantically at his console. "Shields are holding, but we've taken some damage. We need to act fast. Let's prepare for a boarding maneuver," Sarah said, her mind racing. "If we can get on that ship, we can take out their command center." "Are you sure, Captain?" "It's risky," Mark replied, concern in his eyes. "We don't have a choice," Sarah insisted. "This battle must end now." The crew nodded, their determination renewed. "All right, let's do it." Lisa said, her voice steady. They gathered their gear and prepared for the final push. As they activated the boarding pods, Sarah felt a mixture of fear and excitement. They were about to face their biggest challenge yet, but she knew they had the heart and courage to fight. With a loud whoosh, the boarding pods launched toward the flagship. They blasted through the hull and landed inside the enemy ship. The crew quickly emerged, weapons ready. The inside of the flagship was dark and cold, filled with the sounds of alarms and distant echoes. "Stay close!" Sarah whispered, leading her team down the dimly lit corridors. They moved stealthily, taking out a few enemy guards along the way. Their training kicked in and they worked together seamlessly. Finally, they reached the command center where the Empire's high-ranking officers were gathered. Sarah signaled for silence and peeked inside. The room was filled with holographic displays and the sound of urgent chatter. "This is it," she said quietly. "On my mark, we charge in." The crew nodded, their faces set with determination. 3, 2, 1, go! Sarah shouted as they burst into the room. The surprised officers turned to face them, eyes wide with disbelief. "Humans? Here!" one officer exclaimed, reaching for a weapon. But Sarah was quicker. She fired her blaster, taking him down instantly. The rest of the crew followed suit, engaging in a fierce firefight. Energy blasts filled the room, lighting it up with flashes of color. The crew fought bravely, fueled by their desire to protect their home. After a tense battle, they emerged victorious. The remaining officers lay defeated, and Sarah stood at the center of the room, breathing heavily. "We did it!" she shouted, a mix of relief and triumph in her voice. "Captain, the flagship is losing power," Mark reported, his face lit with excitement. "We've disrupted their command. Let's get back to the ship," Sarah ordered, her heart racing. They quickly retraced their steps, returning to the Valiant Star just as the flagship began to break apart. As they launched back into space, the crew watched in awe as the Empire's flagship crumbled behind them. "We've done it!" Lisa shouted, tears of joy in her eyes. "We've defeated the Galactic Empire!" With cheers and high fives, the crew celebrated their hard-won victory. But Sarah knew this was just the beginning. They had shown the galaxy that humanity would fight for its future, and they would continue to defend their home. As they sailed through the stars, Sarah felt a new sense of purpose. The battle may have ended, but their journey was just starting. Together, they would explore new worlds and face whatever challenges lay ahead. "Onward, crew of the Valiant Star. A new beginning awaits us," Sarah declared, her heart filled with hope and excitement for the adventures to come.